Hi, welcome back to Everyday Race. So as of late, I've noticed that people on social media is always asking, hey, I need an exhaust manifold for my 96 Ranger. Could I use one from a 98 Ranger? Could I use one from a 94 Ranger? What's the difference? So I've decided to make this video to show you the difference between a 93 and 94 header, 95 to 97 header, and 98 to 2001 exhaust manifold. Now, all these came from Rangers equipped with the either 2.3 liter single overhead cam or 2.5 liter single overhead cam engines. So, to make it quick, let's look at the 93-94 tubular header. As you can see, this one has this heat shield. Now, this heat shield hooks up to a hose, and that hose hooks up to the a valve that diverts some of the hot air into the airbox. Pretty interesting. I think it was done for to improve fuel consumption and possibly emissions, since it was early 90s. They were still trying to save the earth back then. Let's see what else. 93-94 also had the oxygen sensor installed in the tubular header, unlike the 95 to 97. So this is a tubular header design, and it's an unequal length. What I mean by that is that the primary tubes are different length. From like a first cylinder is the longest one, and fourth cylinder number 4 is the shortest one. It is not great, not a great design, but for a factory piece it's pretty good. So it's a 4-into-1 unequal length header. What I mean by 4-into-1, you got 4 primary tubes going straight. You can see, you can't see, it's getting dark, but they go from 4 into 1. Alright, before it gets too dark, let's move into 95. Oh, almost forgot. The EGR tube and the EGR valve was different from the later models. That's why I unbolted it, because I have no use for it. But it's identical position and thread design as the other two different ones, from 95 all the way to 2001. So you could transfer this EGR tube to this earlier tubular header and possibly use it on a newer Ranger. So I'll answer that question at the end of it. Next, we're going to 95 to 97. As you can see, it's pretty much identical to 93 and 94, except they removed this heat shield. It's no longer there. I'm not sure why. Maybe it didn't work. Maybe they were trying to save some money. Who knows? But it's gone. The next thing they got rid of was the oxygen sensor bung on the header. They moved it from the header to the downpipe. Right over there. That's another 95 to 97 tubular header laying over there. So then they changed to a new style intake manifold, the upper and lower. So the EGR valve and EGR tube is a little bit different. So tubular design, unequal length, 4-into-1. For a factory piece, is pretty good. Alright, now this is a 98 to 2001 2.5 single overhead cam engine. Now, as you can see, this is actually exhaust manifold. Now, it's very odd to see Ford go from tubular headers into exhaust manifold. It's usually opposite. Like, for example, Crown Vics with 5 liters used to come with the exhaust manifolds, but the Mustangs, they came in with the tubular headers as an improvement, as you might say. So anyways, it could also been done due to cost, because it's a lot cheaper to manufacture a cast exhaust manifold than a tubular header that requires welding, flanges, and this just, you can see it's casted piece. So as you can see, EGR valve and EGR tube is identical to 95 to 97. EGR valve is a little bit different, but it will bolt in and it will work on 95 all the way to 2001. Main difference was the nipple on this one. You could see it's F57, so it was made in 95, is on the side. And this one, XF1E, is in the center. It works exactly the same. You can see the same connection, same gasket, same everything else. What's next, what was interesting, is that they, instead of running oxygen sensor in the downpipe like they did in 95 to 97, they went back to running it in the exhaust manifold like a 93 to 94 Ford Rangers. So I think it's a pretty good idea. Reason being is that they like to break and rust out these studs. That's why this one's getting soaked, because I don't want to break them off. And when one of them breaks off, it introduces oxygen into the exhaust, and then the oxygen sensor picks up extra oxygen, and it'll start dumping extra fuel into the engine. Then you got a 100 horsepower truck that uses like a bunch of fuel. This one, if that, or 93 and 94, if that happens, it happens after oxygen sensor collects its data from the engine. So this and this is much better designed than this, but that's just my personal opinion. Now, as you can see, this, they also improved on the design, overall design of the exhaust manifold. As you can see, they went with the equal length primary tubing. As you can see, if you go from here all the way down to here, the distance would be about the same as if you go from this one, it curves around, and then it goes all the way to here, which is very good for many reasons. So also, instead of going 4 into 1, you can see better on this one, yeah, 4 into 1 design, they went into 4 into 2. As you can see, these two combine into 1, and number 4 and number 1 combine into 1 as well, and then they go all the way down, and then they go into 1. So it's a 4 to the 1 design, which in theory is supposed to, instead of have peak power, be very efficient at like a very certain RPM. It divides those peaks into smaller 2 peaks. For example, like 2,000 RPM and 4,000 RPM, instead of having the big, larger peak at like 3,000 RPM or 4,000 RPM. So while these two would provide, in theory, larger or higher peak power, this design, in theory, should provide average higher torque. Like if you take torque from 2,000 to 5,000 RPM, average would be higher on this design than this design. And average is the way to go for something like a truck or daily driven, not raced. So, very good design. So, alright, next, could you interchange any of them? Well, as a matter of fact, they all have the same flanges, and they all bolt in from 93 all the way to 2001. Bolt into different heads, no problem. So let's see. All you have to worry about is the oxygen sensor location and the EGR tube. So if you run a 98 exhaust manifold on a 95 to 97 truck, you would need to cap the oxygen sensor hole either here or there, and either install oxygen sensor here or there. Whichever one you don't use, you just buy a screw and cap and you're good to go. So could you use a 95 through 97 on a 98 to 2001 truck? You could, but you would need to weld a bung on your downpipe. So that requires more money. You would need the bung, and you would have somebody weld it on your downpipe. So your GR tubes can stay the same. So next, let's move to this one. 93 and 94 tubular header could be replaced. The easiest one would be in this 98 to 2001 because it's already got the oxygen sensor in the exhaust manifold, so you would need no you don't need to modify it, and all you have to do is swap the EGR tube and EGR valve and it'll be good to go. So last but not least, one thing that I didn't mention is there is actually a weight difference between the tubular headers and exhaust manifold. The tubular headers are quite a bit lighter than the exhaust manifold. But talk is cheap. Let's find out exactly by how much. Alright, so this is a... Did you quit working? No, it's working. Alright, so tubular header is 9.2 pounds, and that's with EGR tube and EGR valve. So it would be very similar in weight to this one. It would be just slightly bit heavier due to the shield, but it doesn't weigh, maybe, I don't know, 0.2 of a pound. Now let's weigh the exhaust manifold. My favorite one out of the bunch, actually. Hold on. Alright. So as you can see, I'm just holding it. This is my finger. It's 14.6 pounds. So while on a sport bike there would be a huge difference, and this would be a no-go. On a Ford Ranger, extra 4 or 5 pounds, no big deal. So pretty cool. Now I'm fixing to test every one of them. I want to test the 93 and 94 with this funky exhaust design, and I want to test this one. I'm going to be testing for two different things: fuel consumption and performance. So very interested to see which one will come out in first place, but that's going to be in the future. If you guys are interested in that, just subscribe and watch out for updates. The good weather is here. All I got to do is I got to pick a non-windy day, and I'll be able to do a test, because it's pretty hard to do a test on a windy condition. It'd probably take me about an hour, maybe half an hour, to swap the exhaust manifolds, but I would also need about an hour to cool the engine down so I don't burn myself replacing it. So I want to do back-to-back tests on the same day, at the same temperature, at the same barometric pressure. That way the results are correct. So it's getting dark. It's time for me to go feed my raccoons. And if you guys like this video, hit a like button. If not, make sure to comment. And like always, have a good day.